call the meeting to order. All right, so the first thing we need to do is, hopefully you've all had a chance to look at our April minutes. Were there any corrections? May I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Thank you, Dan. And a second?
I'll second.
And Dave seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. All right. Special report. So Scott, this afternoon, I believe, sent the update on the projects.
Yeah,
Was it this
this morning
afternoon?
I.
Was it
uploaded,
this
yeah.
morning? I don't
Yeah.
know. The whole day is
Yeah.
a blur to me. So I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it. Does anyone have any questions?
I can just give you a quick update if you didn't get a chance to review it on each of them. So-
Yeah, that would be good. And then we can have questions.
Yep. So the villages, East End Park, LWRP, Irene we finished up the first pay app like 6 weeks ago.
The partial one,
The partial one, we agreed to the partial payment.
right?
The lady that normally does our paperwork was on maternity leave, and the gentleman that was filling in didn't finalize it and left it alone, so it's just been sitting there. So the lady came back from maternity leave the other day and said, hey, why didn't you finalize this? And I said, hey, I did. Here's the email that told him that the village was okay with a partial payment, move it forward. So they just moved it forward this week, and when they give me the final numbers, I'll submit the final payment. I have it all ready. I just need to do it off of what they previously approved.
So that'll be done
That'd be.
between now and the end of June?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it'll be submitted between now and the end of June.
How much money is that?
The payment they're getting now is $255,000, and I think there's about another $150,000 left to submit for East End Park for the LWRP portion. Tibbetts Point, quarterly report submitted. The fence was approved by New York State Parks. So the fence on one side is gonna look like the fence on East End Park, the
The
cedar
riverside,
beams
yep.
on the riverside, and then the lakeside's gonna have a chain link fence, I believe they approved.
Yep.
So that work should be moving forward.
Do we know when that's gonna happen?
Paul was meeting
It's
with
got,
them.
to go to state park or National Park Service now.
Yeah. Paul was-
Oh, no, I meant the fence piece
Yeah.
of it. Do we have a contractor set
No,
up?
they
for-
can't put it in until National Parks approves it.
Oh, okay.
So it was submitted to National Park. The joint LWRP, we're in a position where we could sign off on it, but the village is reviewing it now and possibly making some changes to it. So we're just on hold until the village is done with their review. I think they've assigned each of you so many pages to review.
Yes, and our, so we haven't identified any, or not necessarily looking to make changes, but
Okay.
based on the guidance we got from Irene, and the length of time and the 3 supervisors, she felt that it was a better review was warranted.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we'll find changes. Our planning board has it as well. They're hoping to have their review done by their next meeting, the 3rd Thursday in May. So hopefully we'll have their comments, and hopefully we'll all be through it as well. I think the village just feels we have extra responsibility because we have the original plan, which the town doesn't have. And I don't know how thoroughly you reviewed the original versus the proposed. We didn't review it step by step along the way. Maybe you did, but
I didn't, I just
Okay.
stepped in and helped you
So-
finish it, like, you
so.
guys were already
Right.
3/4 of the way there.
So in any case, we're gonna take that extra time. Irene was not concerned about the time. Did you have a concern? You sounded concerned about the.
My concern is you guys wanted to get it done, and if you make changes, you gotta go through the whole
60
seeker
days.
60-day public notice again, the whole cycle again, if you make a change.
And-
That's my only concern, and you wanted to get it done so you could build off from it. So, but if you wanna make changes, that's totally up.
Well, and it's not to make changes, it's to make sure we have a document that reflects what the goal was originally and what the joint shared vision is.
Yeah.
So, and part of the process was we started with 17-member committee. We went through that whole process with EDR, Jane, who started it and then had health issues, so we had it reassigned. And then Irene from the state basically did the final go around. So it's just an unusual process that went on for 7 years. So disjointed. It didn't have a county review, which I understand most municipalities request. The county does free reviews for comp plans and LWRPs as well. So I think that's just
I think we did speak to them and they said that they were at least 6 months out to
for the
review
comp
it.
plan.
Well, I think they told us the same on the LWRP too, when we talked to them
Okay.
about it. And
I'll double
we
check.
just
I didn't have a
time to
conversation with them.
Wait 6 months, you know?
Who'd you speak to out there?
I actually think EDR reached out to them when Erica was still working on it, so I don't know.
Well, just
They were
because of how
listed
that.
on the form and
Right.
signed off.
Okay, so in any case, Irene is very comfortable with it actually taking as long as it needs to, only because there's not a current person assigned to that role, and there will be in a few months. So she didn't think we were gonna lose anything in terms of just rushing it through if we weren't comfortable with it yet, so. Anybody have any questions about LWRPs?
No, that's good.
Okay.
And then on Club Street, everybody's aware the referendum passed. The- 2 days after the referendum passed, the big grant was announced, another $600,000 grant, and then the next day or the day after that, New York Forward was announced, so all 3 funding pieces that we talked about through the whole process all came together all within a week, and we're moving forward. Ben has had conversations with New York State DEC and Coastal. He's working on setting up the pre-permitting meeting. He hopes within the next week or 2. There's just some emails going back and forth on dates that people are available for the pre-permitting meeting with them. He's also got surveyors. He's hiring surveyors right now. There's a couple questions about.
And
what
so
they-
that would be, just so I'm clear, so Edgewater's doing the 2 docks, right? Because we got both pieces of funding. So when you talk about permitting and surveying, it's for that piece?
It's for that piece.
Okay, I'm
They
just
want-
trying to track.
They want a specific water survey and underwater survey so they know where they can put the docks.
Okay.
And so their permitting is only in the water, yes. There's no
Where are we with
permitting
the
on the land
Figueroas
side.
on that?
The Figueroas, Paul and Mike played phone tag for about a week and a half. Paul was in Texas for a wedding. He came back and they've been playing phone tag, and now the Figueroas are on vacation for 2 weeks, but
No, they connected.
they did connect.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've had a conversation. They are on vacation, but Mike was open and ready to sit down with us and start discussing.
Awesome.
Because if I'm thinking right about the way the thing is drawn,
Mhm.
their docks are gone.
If things work out.
Right, so if they're surveying, now are they surveying like,
They're surveying our property that we own.
That we can
okay, so
design.
they are, all right, so if they're, so I didn't follow I wasn't clear on my question maybe. So what they're surveying then is really for the 1 dock, because the second dock would be on Figueroa's water, for lack of a better way to describe it, right? So we're gonna pay for that survey in 2 pieces.
I don't know if they'll have to resurvey Figueroa's property. They probably have one. Right now, Ben is looking at, because we are deeded the water underneath. the
Right, I knew
water.
that, which is unusual,
Right.
yeah.
So that's what they're looking for. We may already have it. We're in the process of trying to dig out the original survey when we bought that boathouse and the Swenson house. We also had Jack surveyed when we had the appraisal done. So it's a question of, do we have all that they need, or
Or do you have to
do
pay
we
for
have to
more
pay for another
surveys?
one?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that's.
all right, well, that's good, because I'll tell you, this Figueroa thing worries me. I mean, just,
Yeah, I mean, if it works out, it works out. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, we regroup and figure it out.
Yeah.
He seemed very positive with Paul.
that's good, that's good. I mean, I don't know them, but it's
Yep.
just, knowing how these things happen with people who are adjacent to anything.
Mhm.
It can
Well,
get
he's been
sticky.
positive from the get-go. I mean, that's
Okay,
yeah.
one of the reasons
That's
that,
good.
one of the reasons that we put the dock on he's the one that suggested
He's
that.
the one that
I don't want
offered it.
anything to do with these docks.
He didn't have a use for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah. Well, and
optimistic.
somebody had said something about trying to use the bottom thing of his property for like the bathhouse or something. Where was that? I heard
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yep.
out there.
That's part of the
That was
discussion.
considered.
Yeah, that's a great idea,
Yep.
because now you're not building
'Cause that's
anything
vacant.
else. Yeah,
He's not using it right now,
Yeah.
so.
And
Oh,
part
good.
of the Edgewater, the whole design in the beginning was about public-private partnerships, and that would be an area where we could definitely do it. And they have been receptive, even to the point of talking about redoing that first level for commercial
A store
purposes.
front.
Right.
Yeah.
no,
So-
neat.
Talked
Okay,
about he want to put a store in there. He don't want to run the store, but if somebody wants to lease the store and put it in there. is what he
So is
said.
Figaro is the 3-story.
the big
building
yellow
there?
Yeah.
Clark's Cove, yeah.
Yeah.
That used to be the gas stock store, fishing bait store.
Scalps.
Scalps.
Yeah, fish and bait, just a one-story, simple, adorable little place. And that should have never gotten to the height it got. That was a,
Right.
Planning board.
we just won't let those things happen.
Okay, good, thank you. Sorry that, okay,
No,
so
you're
that
good.
was Club Street and.
So those are the 4 projects that
Okay.
we've been reporting on. Our New York Community Foundation, they sent the grant paperwork on Thursday or Friday of last week. I signed everything. So that should be coming to the town's bank account soon, where they can pass it on.
And you said there might be a press release next week.
They're gonna put out a press release. I was hoping
And-
this week, actually. but
And
I
they're
haven't seen it.
okay if we then follow up with, after they've done their thing, we can do something from the LDC.
Yep, once
That'd be
they do
great.
their thing, we can do something. They're gonna give me some guidelines on what they'd like us to put in and say. and,
Perfect,
um,
perfect. We're happy to say whatever they'd like. They gave us $6,000.
Yep, and then Mary did have me reach out to Stewart's sign. She asked me to find a sign, and I said I just prefer to use Stewart's because they're right here and they made our magnets. To make a 2x4 laminated check on
Reusable.
foam board
Great.
that we can just use dry
Reusable.
eraser and erase it off and present it to the next people.
So it'll have the lines on it like it's a check
It's a-
and then we can.
Yep.
just-
We can just
It's
fill it
gonna have
in.
our logo at the top
Yeah,
where
and
you put your
reusable. That's a good
address,
idea. Yeah, I
$125
like that.
if I can get a
Yeah,
motion.
so,
to
yeah, so
purchase
we
it.
would like to, let's try to get that passed if we can. So it's $125. The check would be reusable. That'll have our logo on it. You
Yes.
said it'll
Yep.
have our logo on it.
Okay.
Um,
I'll show you. I sent him a sample and he said he could do that. So let me see if I can pull it.
Okay. So it's $125. I would need a motion and a second to agree to
I
get
make
that.
that motion.
Pam makes the motion and
Second.
and Carol will second it and she writes the checks. so.
And Scott, you get a check every week, so you know exactly what check should look like, if it's gonna look like our check. Or not every week, every
I was gonna
month.
say every week, am I missing?
Oh, well, there's the one you get and then there's the one we just share.
Share,
Oh,
So like
nice.
a check like that with our logo in the top corner instead of Duke Energy.
Is that 2x4? That looks bigger to me.
2x4
looks
would,
about
2x4 would
2x4.
not be the right,
Dimension.
would not be the right dimensions of a check. It would be more like,
2x6.
right.
I mean,
they're
6 is
longer.
the side of this table. You don't, you want it
Mhm.
that big?
Well, they got 3 people holding.
Well, that could be
Right.
2x4.
it.
That could be 2x4.
It could be 2x4. Yeah.
We'll do 2x4.
Yeah.
We know the price for it. All right, so
Yeah.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Excellent. Let's do the sign. I like it.
Okay.
All right.
I do not have a update on the housing study or
Destination
destination
management.
study. Do you want me to reach out to them and get a quote? Do you
I
want me
think we
to-
need to talk about where it fits in the strategic plan. So
That's why I
let's,
haven't done
yeah,
that
which
yet.
is fine. That's fine. I just wondered because you had talked about it and if you had
I
anything.
tried to find the one she told us that like Placid did, and I can't find it online, so I'll reach out to their,
Yeah.
she said their chamber did.
The
that.
housing thing, you were gonna reach out to Oswego. The ex-mayor of Oswego that you know,
Yeah,
because
Billy. Okay.
because they said that everything they did in their housing study was filled with like waiting lists. He waxed eloquently about how terrific their housing study was. And when we met with Clayton's LDC, because we were hoping to use theirs, Clayton is unhappy with
Yeah.
theirs. They were unhappy with theirs, so we don't want to use their person. So Scott knows the previous mayor, so if we can get the name of those people, that might be at least someone for us to talk to, if that's decided to be tactically what we're gonna do. Okay. That moves us over to the strategic
Could
plan.
I go back and just ask one question?
Oh,
on
sure.
Scott's report, just before he goes into that, because then I I think that's gonna be a bulk of our
It-
meeting,
it
right?
is
So,
about the meeting.
Scott, on the Club Street report, for milestones for May, start meetings with Edgewater and the town on design, contract documents. The village is wondering or would like to be included in meetings with Edgewater in these initial stages. Or, well, to get back on track, we're excited that it's moving forward, and to avoid what we ran into in this last 6-month period, I think if we're involved in this shared project, we could ask questions in real time and just be done with.
I
So if you
think
could,
after I did that report, actually on my way up here, I had like a 20-minute phone conversation with Ben.
yeah,
And I think they're gonna look to come up maybe in the end of June and do kickoff meetings. We haven't got dates yet, but
Looking at the 25th for kickoff.
of June.
Yeah.
in
Okay,
Ben in person and then Greg on the phone.
but if
on
that's
Zoom.
kickoff and everything's already been decided, it doesn't really.
I don't think we're gonna decide anything
Okay.
before then. I think the only thing he's gonna work on between now and then are the pre-permitting meetings, the permitting, the
With the-
surveys. I
Okay,
don't
Army
think,
Corps and that kind of thing.
I would say if the town's gonna have a meeting with him, then
We just like to,
Include
since
you.
we've got to
Would it-
this,
Would it be helpful if, I would assume these guys are professionals, that they put together an agenda for these meetings?
yeah, we always have that.
Yeah, so I mean, if that agenda could get shipped over to somebody in the village, just to say if they think it's something they should be a part of? I mean, what do you
Yeah, I'm-
guys,
I'm not sure we're gonna have any meeting. I'm not sure of.
well, I mean, it was just based on
Any
what Scott
changes?
was saying.
if
But
the
I mean,
village-
like, if the agenda is just to keep them informed, I mean, I don't even know if the LDC should have a rep on those, just to know what's going on. I mean, I hate to have more meetings, but, you know, how are we gonna make sure, because this is so huge. How are we gonna make sure that everybody's knows exactly what's going on and we're all singing from the same hymnal when we get asked a question?
If there's a meeting scheduled, I don't foresee one myself.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing for a kickoff. I don't know. I know he wants to meet with the Figueroas in person.
well, we used to get copied on that information. If we could be copied again when Ben is meeting with different people, that way we could reach out and get information
Right.
before. a
Or say,
concept has
boy,
been
I know
defined.
something, you know, so for example, like a piece of this is New York Forward money. The village is probably going to be the most intimately and, you know, aware of anything with New York Forward, so making sure everybody's
Right,
talking
and that's
is,
gonna
I think,
complicate it as
important.
it goes forward, just the other
Yeah.
projects. So the
Yeah.
more we're all on the same page, since we're sharing a vision in our LWRP and our comp plan, if we don't know what's going on, it's a little
Yeah,
hard
with the
to
land
share.
work, we definitely have to cooperate because you've got the other side of the grant. I mean,
Right.
our money only goes to the street and then your
Right.
money goes the rest of the way, so we gotta make sure.
Well, hopefully you
that's
mean that you
flowing.
want to cooperate regardless of that.
Yes, I know, but I'm saying that has to flow together.
Okay.
And then, and so
We agree then.
I believe that, Scott, you're under separate contract with the town for something on Club Street. Did you tell me that, or am I dreaming that crap?
Just the extra work.
Just the extra work that was already done.
The extra
So
work
my
that was
hours
already done,
after the
so,
vote, I put-
so
started
when
putting back
we-
on my- So
so
the
when we-
administration's
yeah.
gonna go back on my time.
so we have, when we get to, you know, this, at the end of the strategic plan, we have to talk about how we move from strategic to tactical to negotiating your contract, right? Just to be like, it's a 3-step process and we got 6 weeks. So, that's why I had sent a note to Dan and Pam that I need to know anything that's getting paid for by either municipality, well, the board needs to, by any municipality outside of what we're paying, right? So I just want to make sure. So Dan, you probably saw my note where I sort of said the 5 things. Pam,
I saw
well, I
it.
sent it to the whole board, but I said, I
Yep.
need you guys to get that information. Because we want to negotiate fairly, right? We need to say, this is the work we see coming. So that we want to talk about at the end of the strategic plan, because it's kind of tight in there, so.
Yep.
Good, all right. Good,
I think so.
you got it?
We're good.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't cut off your questions.
No.
Okay, strategic plan.
Okay, so I sent everybody's strategic plan at the beginning of the week. Mary did give me some comments and I answered her questions and I did make a couple of changes to.
And you know she has
Good plan.
more.
Oh, yeah, no, you said here's a few to start. I knew there was more coming.
I didn't
So-
ask anything on your monthly report.
No?
I just want, mark it down.
No, I agree. So just we'll start right at the top, but I didn't like do a PowerPoint. I just thought I'd walk you through the whole thing and how we got here and where we're going. So I started off with an executive summary. This really looks at the background on how we got here, how the committee was formed, what the 4 focus areas are. Those 4 focus areas were identified by the committee, and that committee was a number of meetings that MRB Group and Matt Horn organized. There was some workshops with that committee and feedback, and that's how they came up with these 4 focus areas. These definitions for the 4 focus areas were also from that committee. They were approved by that committee and really handed to the LDC as this is your goal. So those are not anything that, I added to this. I just wanted to highlight right from the beginning, this is how we got here and this is what the goals were. Table of contents, obviously, and then a little introduction to give some information about, the town and the village population, some demographics, what the business, the business economy, local entrepreneurs, tourism, talked about the lighthouse a little bit, key areas that bring people in. Talked about the school system a little bit, activities, fishing derbies, French festival. Talked to a little bit about fostering safe environment, encouraging year-round residents, encouraging year-round businesses, how the local government's involved. And then talked about actions moving forward and how we use economic data and current conditions to come up with our goals and our long-term objectives. That mission statement is also from that committee. So that's directly from them. And then went into the framework. So this is where I started putting together the matrix and some information to guide the strategic plan. Looked at areas of growth and development, just a brief description of those 4 items again and how they're going to be in the strategic plan. Talked about quality of life, economy, year-round business, and highlighted, we acknowledge one of the critical needs right away is childcare to meet the demands. I fixed the redundancy that Mary pointed out in here, so I took that out on 2 of the paragraphs. So then just to get right into the preservation of our community.
Scott, let's pause for a minute.
Yep.
Does anybody have any comments or questions on that first part? I just want to make sure we're sort of breaking it.
Take them as we go.
So anybody? Because that's kind of a good stopping point. You guys all had a chance to read it, I'm hoping?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Just,
Okay.
let's just stop at like the end of each
Each section
section.
now, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So then going into preserve community character, I identified some key aspects that some of the actions will identify and move towards. Some of these I know are village or town driven, but I put them in here because I think as the LDC, you should be involved in making recommendations on the business side of it. So I think they should be things that you're encouraging the town and village to do through governance and other things to preserve the community character, work with the village and the town to keep an eye on zoning when you do your zoning in the village. Historic architecture maybe downtown, especially as we're going through this New York Forward, identifying changes that are going to be made. Investment in public space, parks, things that improve the quality of life, infrastructure, parks, roads, walking trails. Attract businesses, develop some initiatives, incentive programs. We can start right away with this with the New York Forward, the $300,000 that the village is going to ask the LDC to administer. So that would be one thing right away that you're going to jump into. That's attracting businesses or targeting small businesses. Attracting and retaining residents. So through housing policies, through the housing study, what is needed for housing, single family homes, multifamily homes, affordable workforce development housing. This is another one, encourage the village and town to complete their comp plan, bring it up to date, include projects that you want to see as the LDC in the comp plan. because that comp plan's used to get grant money. We use that as a supporting document when the LDC starts applying for grants. If those projects are in there, you know, you can highlight, they've already been discussed in the public, they came from public meetings, the public supports these, you know, so those are all positive things. And then promoting marketing, not duplicating what the chamber is doing, but working with the chamber, providing them support, helping, you know, market together. We talked about the website. That's one of the actions, you know, things that we can do together or in support of the chamber and give them help to market the area and the unique aspects of our community.
Yeah, so one thing just that goes in my mind, and this one really helps frame it, is so we've got to make sure that we're working with the municipalities, right? And the only agreement we have right now with the municipalities is it's about money, right? Give us money, right? We have an IMA. But really, how do we, and we have the communication plan, right? That was another thing. The chamber, like, do we need, and I'm just throwing this idea out there, do we need to work on sort of rules of engagement, for lack of a better term, with these groups? So for example, I mean, I know the chamber's sort of in a heap of hurt right now, but you know, I was on a Frontenac Island call and I invited Nicole because Christy's gone, right? And then I was like, and then I was reading this right after, and I was like, should we be doing that? I mean, how do we work together? And I'm just wondering, and I know, Mandy, you're our rep to the chamber. I mean, what do you guys think? Should we be a little bit more formal in kind of how we're doing this? I mean, we don't even have a chamber rep, right? We at least have you guys, right? Pointing to Dan and Pam. I'm just.
I think the joint LWRP is really gonna be a tremendous document for just what you're talking about.
For the municipalities and the LDC.
Right.
But
Okay.
the chamber component.
But the
is different.
LWRP really is focused on the waterfront, correct?
Yeah, but.
I mean,
again,
as
Well, it
opposed-
doesn't, I mean, there should be more. Usually you include agriculture land, you talk about
It's
town
upland
plans
too,
as
yeah.
well.
It's a little bit
So-
upland, but
Yeah.
more to the town lands would be the comp plan, like the village, the comp plan
Right.
that we updated and then shared with the village and the town, and they didn't adopt it or anything, but I think more of putting a focus back on the comp plan and being involved in that. And I think with the chamber, I think with these organizations, just having a liaison reporting back and forth and start.
Which
that
we do now
conversation.
with Mandy, right?
I
So
think that's-
Mandy's for
I
the
think that's a key
chamber.
starting point.
Yeah.
Whether, I don't think we need I don't personally don't think you need a voting member of the chamber on this.
Oh, I'm
committee.
not saying that it would be a voting member at all.
Just a
But-
member would be nice.
Yeah, but if
Mandy-
Mandy's going, Mandy, I mean, what do you think? I mean, should there be, I mean, maybe it's just too early, but I'm just worried about stepping on, you know, people stepping in other people's spaces.
I don't think we will get anybody to join. I don't think we'll get anybody
Right,
to.
no,
come on
but
to our
I'm
board.
talking
So-
about like rules of engagement, like really saying,
Oh.
okay, this is yours and this is ours.
I don't know. I feel like we need to tread a little lightly because they're their own entity. And we don't have any governance over them. Like with the town and village, we have reps and we have support from them. But and I think it'd be the same for the other organizations in Cape, you know. I
And
think
that's-
I don't know. I just think I don't think we need to have anything formal.
Okay.
When I'm able to get to the meetings, they're open to whatever I have to say, and you know, they like that we have somebody there. So I don't know. That's how I feel. I don't know, but there's other people in other organizations that are on our board if they have other thoughts on it.
That's kind of where my actions, like when you get to the actions, it's more of Mandy's there and she can offer our assistance and our recommendations. And if they say, hey, yeah, we want you to do that, then it's more of a defined role, but not stepping on anybody's toes, but at least starting that conversation. You know, part of, when we get into this, part of it, like the board adopted this model of responsibilities, and I didn't identify responsibilities because to me, this whole board's responsible for each of these actions, but it's a matter of, do you want to form committees? Like, do you want a marketing committee that has people involved? You know, I think that's where this board has the opportunity to identify responsibilities and roles. You know, I listed all the partners and agencies that we can work with and where the funds are
Right.
available. But as far as responsibilities, I think as a whole, it's this board's responsibility. And then as a board, who do you identify as, do you want, you know, do you want a marketing committee? Do you want the governance committee to attend the planning board meetings to make recommendations? Do you want those committees? Do you want to form a housing committee that looks at doing a housing survey, that looks at making housing recommendations to the town or village, or making housing recommendations to this board to go seek funding? This board, once our 501c3 is corrected, you can own housing. You could go get a community development block grant and build affordable housing. You could run a daycare. You could, like, hand in hand is a 501c3. You could go seek funding through the CDBG program, and the Cape Vincent LDC could own a daycare and own and operate a daycare. So those, I think, are roles that you need to identify as a board, but it's your responsibility in the end. And I, just gave you the partners to do that.
Okay. Yeah, good. Anybody else thoughts on that? No? All right, moving on.
So as I mentioned, this board did adopt this as how they wanted their strategic plan. They wanted the actions, the entities, the priorities, the cost. I added the timing, just based on meetings that we've had and my input. So to come up with a lot of these strategies, I went back through 5 years worth of meetings. I went back through all of our minute meetings. I went back through our public workshops and all the notes I have when we did the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I went back through all those to help identify actions. I took comments from our interviews when I did interview a few of the board members there a few months ago when we had the initial interviews where I got some feedback. So that's where we came up with these. So for the preservation of our community, high priority, because it's on the table now, is conducting a housing study to identify the opportunities to seek potential developers and funding. High priority, near term, housing consultant, New York State Homes Community Renewal. Those are the ones with the housing grants, HUD grants, OCR. Providing more youth activities year-round and family activities. High priority, engaging the school, youth commission. New York State Parks and Recs is an opportunity to seek grant funding. Leverage some natural resources, look at opportunities to promote existing waterfront, engage community parks, waterfront trails. I didn't fix that one word. Not rails to Tibbetts Park, trails to Tibbetts Point and outdoor space. Mary pointed it out. That's the one I missed and didn't fix. So that's a high priority. That one might cost you a little more money. The other ones are planning and a little study. If you're going to be involved in seeking some grants, that might cost you a little more money to do the actual physical work of the trail. Listed a number of partners that are involved in recreation, outdoor space. I forgot Tilt on there actually. And I did, from the sample I sent you, Mary asked me to organize them in high, medium, and low. So all the highs are up top and then mediums, priority. Incentivize the development of diverse housing, including rental, senior market, workforce housing, particularly in the
Scott?
downtown area. Yep.
On the trails, would there be, I know Clayton is working on similar things in their goals. Is that anything regionally we want to like asterisk that?
We can add that. I did that on the bike trail. So if you wanted to do it on the walking trails, we could.
Because they're doing rails to trails and some other things that.
Yeah, so we could add Clayton as a partner and
they're actually talking
Look
about
at
Route
region.
12 again, the whole thing, the safe.
that is on here. That's one
Right,
of the
I know,
actions.
but
So,
that's a regional thing, so
Yep.
just a, cool.
yeah, I can change that and add some regional to that and add Clayton. So incentivize housing, look at a house, taking that housing study and look at incentives that You can seek some CDBG funding or HCR housing funding. If there's some vacant properties that you can look for a Restore New York grant for. The village has been successful in the past. I mean, Roxy's was done with a Restore New York grant. So that there's opportunities there. Promote the culture and history of Cape Vincent, the festivals, continue to support them, foster deeper relationships with them. Those are long-term. There is grant money available. Market New York, help you advertise and promote these events. Work with local organizations, businesses, create additional community events, focus on unique access to the community, visitors draw. This is another one that was recently brought up, study and recommend options to the village and the town for short-term rental laws, if it's a concern. I mean, that's part of the destination study that Mary mentioned that they did up in Lake Placid. Is it needed or not? So, you know, there's.
I don't think the destination management study is in one of these tables. Did I miss it? Because it, at least, and help me make sure I've got the definition correct. But when I think about destination, I mean, we know the river and boating and fishing is a draw for us, tourism. What I'm hoping is there's someone who could help us think more broadly about what else would bring people to Cape Vincent, both long-term residents, right? People that want to live here, right? But also other reasons that people might come and be tourists here. And honestly, you know, I brainstorm like really stupid ideas, you know, of things like, you know, would we want like botanical gardens, which is probably not great in the North Country, but you know, that idea, I mean, like
Big
if
ice
you
garden.
think about like Longwood Gardens, I mean, here's this set of gardens that are gorgeous. They bring thousands of visitors there, right? People go out of their way. They go out of their way for art museums and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not saying any of those are a good idea, but I'm
And
hoping a
lighthouses.
destination management group would say, here are some other things that might not be real labor intensive because we don't have a lot of people, but would bring, like, you wouldn't want an amusement park, right? Because like, where the heck would we get the workers?
And they call them anchors, and like Clayton is fortunate because they have antique boat museum, they have the opera house,
Yes,
they have
and we don't have,
Museum.
textile museum, so those are anchors. And this is, I was gonna bring this up later, but one of the things that Irene sent me was, because she knows we need to update our comprehensive plan. New York State through Smart Growth Program can assist us with our
$100,000
an update. And they would be, I think, help us identify those. in a
somebody to
swap
do that kind of.
Right, exactly.
They would help us with the study, or they would actually help us with
They could
ideas.
potentially do both. They could help identify a consultant if we needed somebody to tackle a specific study, and then help us with in the process of the comprehensive plan, help us like a SWOT, figure out all the ideas.
Right.
Mhm.
all the
Is the
options.
fisheries thing still open? there?
Yes, and it's a great little place.
Right, now that's a piece of anchor right there that nobody
It
else
is an
has.
anchor, right? That's true. Have you gone there? You need to take your
I
grandchildren
haven't
there.
been there in years and years and
The
years.
fish tanks are beautiful and it's clean and
Then I do have
updated.
to,
and
absolutely.
in that level, if you go
It's so
upstairs, it's like,
under-advertised.
it was trapped in 1960, like they have, everything is like from another
And
era.
who owns
The
this?
DEC.
They redid the whole aquarium after it flooded that one
And
year.
it's,
Oh.
So
my
it's
granddaughters
beautiful.
love it. It's
Oh,
really
cool,
pretty.
good.
I
Yeah,
think
to
you
know.
wanted.
it's small.
different
It's a hidden
destination
gem.
study than
It
Lake
is.
Placid. So Lake Placid was a destination management study focused on the relationship between visitors, the industry they serve, and the community that hosts them in the environment. Their concern is they're over marketing the destination. So they're relying on 75 to 80% tourism year round. And they wanted to get away from that. They think they're marketing too much and they're relying too much on tourism. I think you want to kind of do a destination the opposite way, like what do we need to bring more?
Well,
to
yeah,
encourage
I mean, it would be
year-round
both, right?
tourism.
So something that's gonna bring more of a variety of tourists, right? Because honestly, I feel like what's going on with the waterfront is pretty good and it's gonna take a while, right?
Yeah.
So what else should we be focused on?
Definitely.
And also, would it be things that would bring year-round residents?
Yep.
Right? So I'm calling it destination management. I don't know what you call it, but it seems like
think
there
that's a
must be
good term.
people out there
Yeah.
that would, and I love the
definitely.
idea of the anchors. What would
Yeah.
be the anchors? And then that would,
Yep.
All right, sorry. for-
Nope.
We
That's
we
fine.
talked
I'll add
about,
that.
once we ceased the agreement with the hostel, what are we gonna do with the buildings up there? And, Maritime Museum came up. It's quite an undertaking, but maybe that's something we could talk to
Yeah.
Well,
the state
didn't
parks
we have,
with.
but also, didn't we have the guy like invent the fly fishing pole? There's that little thing in the history museum, like it's like a special fly fishing type pole thing. I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't
it's
know
on
about
that
that.
back wall.
Sounds
It's
good.
really cool. Like he made like these, special, so, could it be some kind of a fishing type museum?
Maritime,
since-
yeah, all of
I don't
them.
know, but those,
Maritime fishing, local.
Yeah.
whatever.
right, but
I mean, we
anything
got
that
a museum,
brings,
but-
but that would bring more people with varying interests.
Mhm.
Is what I'm thinking. Anyway, sorry,
Yep,
I'm
no.
off on a.
Scott, I have one before you go too far. I don't know with the partners if we've got Fort Drum mentioned anywhere, because we've done extensive talk about engaging.
Mhm.
I haven't added them to any yet. That's a good point. Yep.
There's two areas that I was thinking about as part of the community character. One is how to incentivize property maintenance within, because as you drive into town, the first thing
Yeah.
you see as a visitor here is rotting boats
Mhm.
across from Bob's. You go by to that beautiful park and then there's junk.
There's that.
Can we,
You
what
know.
can be done? Can the village not enforce?
We've
something
tried
there?
to. We had a very nice meeting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, keep
No,
going.
No, but you're right.
Go ahead.
No,
I just wanted to say, it's about incentivizing them to do it. I know we can't force them. It's not a zoning issue or anything else. But it's the other ways that you come into the village. It's the same problem as you come down Market Street. First thing you come into is that abandoned lot across from the Dollar General
Mhm.
and a bunch of houses that are not well maintained. So it's,
Good points.
you're trying to bring visitors here and the first thing they're gonna see is a junkyard. And
That's a good
again, so
point.
that's,
It's a great point. I'm picturing driving into Clayton from the different ways you drive in, and
it's beautiful. from
I
every
don't
direction.
see anything like this. It's a
Yeah.
great point. It's a valid
So-
point.
Very valid.
So it's sort of a strategy. The
Part of
second
our
one is.
So there's some
We should add
zoning
that.
component that could be addressed,
Yeah.
other than the right of way in front of the marina. Unless somebody comes, a really good strategy. We were told by the owner, we're welcome to go to court for the rest of our lives. Not in those words, but, and it is state right of way, so,
And
you
meeting,
know.
we've discussed it with DOT and they wanted
They
nothing to
won't-
do with
they won't
enforcing
touch it.
it right
Yeah.
away.
But I think you can pass a local law. I'm trying to remember who we talked to. I think it's a
he has
2-year.
special rights. But go ahead, a 2-year,
Does he?
supposedly.
It seems like if you passed a local law that was a 2-year, for the better term, waiting period, then you could put some teeth in it. The DOT, it was a waste of time.
So like. I
2-year
know
waiting period as far as a right of way.
Before you could
For
enforce
grandfather,
it.
like he has 2 years to enforce it. So like I know in the village of West Carthage,
Okay.
we have like, you can only have one unregistered vehicle on your property.
Yeah,
So if you did something like abandoned vehicles on your property, or boats, something like that, you might be able to enforce. So like if we have,
Right.
we've had a couple properties that have 3
And
or 4
honestly,
vehicles without
Dave,
license plates on it,
Dave,
you
to
got
your
10
point,
days to get
if
rid of
the
it.
LDC did nothing else in our entire tenure, but we
Guns
cleaned up
blazing.
those boats, they'd be erecting statues. to
Oh my
us.
No, but I
Gosh,
think
they
this
would.
really is a really
So-
good idea to be part of our plan somehow. How do
Yes.
we make?
And that's why I
Yes.
left room, is to add.
Yeah.
more.
Oh, right, yeah, no,
So
this is a great
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Please don't
So,
think we're
like,
not.
Yeah.
Property
liking it.
maintenance and zoning.
Yeah.
yes,
okay.
great
Yep.
points.
Property
Thank you
maintenance
for
and
those.
zoning, okay.
The second one is how to convince vacant businesses to repurpose. So we've got a lot of places that we could house. Somebody wants to come in and develop a shop or a boutique or something. And nobody wants to give them that space.
They're happy to keep it boarded up.
They'd rather keep it boarded
Good
up.
And I think some of them down in the next one might address that. but
Yeah.
just give me- So the last two on this is develop a new sidewalk from East End Park to downtown into the school. That was talked about.
Mhm.
at length at multiple meetings, safer route to school. There's a couple programs that you can do that with. And then to create a comprehensive list of land available for redevelopment, both business and housing.
Play into
That
his
plays
point
into-
about open storefronts.
Open space.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
When we talked about the village had concern because of the infrastructure underneath. Is that still, we had
On which
talked
one?
about,
Oh,
extending
East End to-
sidewalks and bike paths. It was bike paths.
on the north side of Broadway.
Yeah.
Um,
And there was concern from the village about infrastructure.
I think their concern was before we put down layers of new pavement or concrete, they'd like to replace. the
Right.
Right,
underneath.
so
But
do
they're
we,
gonna have to do that as part of the New York Forward anyway.
right,
Do
I
they?
don't,
right, yes. So I
Okay,
don't think
so New
that's
York
a
for-
stopping point. by
okay,
any
so,
means, no.
so with the New York Forward money, the infrastructure underneath that would be
Mhm.
taken care of.
no,
Not with their money,
No,
no, but the
they're-
village would have to,
but I think they're moving forward, with putting down the new pavement and new sidewalks and shrinking the road without doing the infrastructure.
I hope not.
But you don't have the funding to do the infrastructure yet,
Um,
unless that's included in the New York Forward money.
I don't think it
I'm
is.
not
I don't
sure,
think so, either,
but
not for 2.1 million.
no,
2.9.
no. Well, the discussion was with New York Forward was you're not going to do something that would have to be ripped up in a year or two. And the response was no. So I don't know how that will play out then.
Yeah.
So it just wouldn't,
Can you bring that up?
I definitely can. bring that.
Yeah, because, us deciding what we're gonna focus on, if the village is, first of all,
Some
should
of-
we be looking for infrastructure grants to get
Right.
that cleaned up underneath? So before you spend the 2.9 million on streetscape. That would be
You're talking all the way from East End, all the way through. Broadway.
wherever Jerry and the team
Yeah.
thinks that it needs to be fixed.
And I have had those discussions with Jerry. I mean, to seek funding, the village has to do a preliminary engineering report, and it's a $30,000 bill, just to even seek funding with infrastructure. You have to have that done. On the sewer side, there is planning grants that cover 90% of that, but on the water side, it's a little tougher.
So that might be,
So we could seek a sewer grant. At least study.
well, you need $30,000 up front, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we got 35, I think, for our sewer.
For your
site
sewer study.
in the village.
But that, just so I'm tracking. So it would be 30,000 for an engineering study, of which we could get 35 if we pretended it was just sewer. Am I following that correctly?
To cover the sewer design, yes, but they're gonna need a water program too. They're gonna need a water report too. They're
Which
gonna
would
have
be
two
less. Because 30,000
different-
is for both.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not
So-
sure how much was accomplished when we did the sewer project before.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Don't
How
know
far?
under Broadway. I know some of the side
So,
streets were covered, but
right.
not under Broadway.
Because I'm just saying, as we start to do prioritization, if there's a stop
But-
because of what's underneath the ground, then maybe we need to say, how are we helping with what's underneath the ground?
Right, and that was a question, yeah. I
And
know
should
it's
that be
not-
in our plan?
And that's also why I didn't identify it as like short term, like this is not. now.
Yeah,
Like, this
right,
is
yep,
like more
right,
of a
but is there
long-term-
something that's a high priority that's taken care of under the ground, is
Right.
my point.
Yep.
Okay.
So, any other questions on that section?
No, good, that's-
Okay. So the next one is the attract investments through promotion of small localized businesses, kind of to today's point, business incubators and accelerators. Is there a way that we can establish some incubators? Maybe talk to them about allowing their empty space to be used or rent it out short term for smaller businesses to get a start? Is there funding opportunities that we can access money through JCIDA for them or somewhere else where we could help them seek some access to capital? Enhanced marketing program. Like I said, working with the chamber on marketing, how can we partner? I don't want to take their, duplicate or take away from them, but how can we promote the area as well? Website is one of the things mentioned, this is one that we could work with a village in town, and this is this is difficult in some areas. I don't know if it's the same here in the village or town, but is there a way we can streamline the permit process for new businesses? Is there a way to assist them, provide them assistance in applying for their zoning permit and building permit or whatever they need for their sign? You know, is there a way to streamline that, or can we provide them assistance to help them through that process to?
I think the village is pretty good on that, and we give them an advance approval and
Yeah.
get in here.
So,
But yes,
Come on.
but anyway.
Scott, I have a question for you on the incubators. You know, doing something as an anchor of our farm markets and doing that, and maybe that would incorporate agriculture or local farms in the area that we could support with grant money or whatever the case may be. But, you know, I think of, you know, that component, and, you know, we only do the farmer markets in the summer. Maybe some of these vacant buildings could become year round. And we could do something farm to table, or because we do have some really neat agricultural assets in the town. And I just think that that could be a really neat approach. And then secondarily, the restaurants can leverage local farm to table.
Yep, we can.
Good point.
Yep.
Now Clayton is just where the
Grand Union was at one time.
Train Union, and it was the exercise place that's now opening as a small little bunch of businesses in there. I haven't been in yet, but they've just had a soft
Oh, neat.
opening or coming up. So they're doing just that, giving a place for small vendors to be in under a roof.
We have a place on Main Street that would be perfect for.
You know,
Gray building.
you know, I was thinking about how do we salvage Albury's to be different? And if they sponsored space for local agriculture, because they have the space, you know, things like that. And I'm just using them as an example, but I just think that there's an opportunity there to really have a interesting anchor that could be a variety of different offerings for people to come to Cape year round. And maybe it's a monthly activity, I don't know, but it's just something that I think let's leverage what we have locally. And a lot of people don't, like, inclusive of myself as a seasonal resident, there's lots of interesting businesses and people doing things that you may not be aware of because it may not be exposed in the summer months, you know? So I just think that that would be a really neat initiative for us.
And when we started the New York Forward process, the brewery wasn't interested in food that much. They wanted to do an incubator kitchen and allow other local people to rent it like 30 days at a time, and here's your menu.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like pop-up restaurant.
Yeah, but maybe that's something we can incentivize for the Figueroas to do with their space, create a,
What about the Trottier White Building in front of
that
them?
as well, like, could we?
I mean, I haven't been
incentivize
in there
like
in a long time,
It's a
but
great
that's,
space, really.
it's
for
a big
Where are you
open.
talking about?
it-
One
you
right
know,
next to the village. Dock.
Right behind the Village Green,
Ah.
that white building.
Okay.
It was an art gallery.
At
and
one
antiques.
time.
But I mean, maybe those are areas
Yes,
that we can
yes,
work with them
yes,
to
yes.
incentivize as incubator space, and somebody can run a cafe out of there for 2 months or something and try it.
Well, and you got the one that's for sale on the corner, the blue buildings, you know, that they put all the
Oh,
like
yeah.
lighthouses, things. I mean,
Right.
that's more of like a,
Yeah.
but if you could come up with some kind of a deal where it was, you know, to Jeannie's point, it's once a month, but you know, there's different things in there and things in that white building.
Well, a cool concept is the pop-up restaurant that brings in actual real chefs doing wonderful, unique menus for a month at a time
Mhm.
into a restaurant space. It's fun to go to.
Mhm.
It brings people. It
Oh,
brings
for sure.
foodies from everywhere. It's a really, I've been to one in Montreal where each month it's something different that they're doing. Of course, there's a lot more people there, but people go
Yeah.
to those things. Who's the chef this month? What's he put, what's on the menu for this month?
That's a great idea.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeannie.
No, I'm agreeing with Carol. There's so many, you know, different opportunities. If we talk about anchors, how do we get Clayton residents to come to Cape?
They're already coming to the channel marker.
They sure are.
Yeah, oh, well, yes, I get
But
you
not-
there.
And not just Clayton, they're from Sackett's. Every time I go in there, there's different people from all over.
It'll be
So I-
especially your own place, because it can boat up once the dock's there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Oh
maybe
my
he
gosh.
wants, maybe he
Yeah.
wants to put in a small kitchen and seating and just lease it out to somebody a month at a time,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe we can
Be
incentivize
an
that or
option.
help funding, you know, so,
I love the pop-up restaurant idea. I think that would certainly go. People want different stuff. Indian 1 month.
Mhm.
Locals and
Yes.
tourists, that appeals to everyone.
so to
Sure.
keep going down, you know, partner with other local institutions, nonprofits, organizations, to promote tourism and activities. You know, your niche market, your things that are unique to Cape, maritime services, local crafts, local regional agriculture. Seasonal year-round strategy, how can we develop some strategies to help businesses stay open longer year-round, providing services? You know, they all tie together, it goes back to housing and keeping people here longer and not seasonal residents. So, you know, infrastructure improvements,
Employment too, it comes to
Yeah.
employment.
I put technology and broadband on here, and Mary asked me if it was known. This goes back to meetings, especially in the beginning and through COVID, when people were working at home, there was a lot of comments that the internet up here just didn't have the bandwidth to do a lot online, and
I was just
That if
curious
you
if that
wanted-
was still the case.
It is. I know
Is it?
that I struggle, but
so if you wanted to bring in some businesses or people that can work from home year-round, the technology and the internet was one key thing that was brought up quite a bit in some of the earlier meetings, so I kept it on there.
Okay.
Especially if you look at year-round residents, if you want to relocate or you want to bring in new families that maybe work remotely.
that's it.
It's
And that's what I was thinking is there a way to consider remote workers as a business?
Yeah.
Because with the lack of employment opportunities up here, those people, I mean, if we can reach out and bring people to the town,
That's actually a good idea.
families, that will not only support the local businesses, the school, really importantly, but
Right.
you know, it would also keep the character of the environment as well, so. Is there a way to do that though, to market it as a business?
Well, we're trying to attract
It's hard
jobs.
with
Maybe we're trying to attract remote working jobs.
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
Are we saying though that we don't have adequate still internet, you think, even?
I know we're on a tenuous, out on Tibbetts, I'm on a
Oh.
very tenuous line and it goes down all the time.
Is it
And
Time
there's
Warner or no?
zero, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
okay.
Time
Yeah.
Warner, but there's zero ability to back up to the cell tower. Cause
Yeah.
I get about half a bar.
You gotta do
You know,
Wi-Fi
and-
calling. That's, and then the Wi-Fi goes out.
Hmm.
At
So
least where we are, but I thought we might have been unique.
I have to do Wi-Fi calling in my apartment in the village.
So maybe we look at,
So,
maybe we look at working with the development authority. I
We
mean,
also have a dead spot at Nones Bay area
Yeah.
where my daughter lives.
I mean, the
We're
development
putting a
authority.
tower at the school. Is that gonna help any of that, or is that, it's on the site, it's probably not close
The
enough.
development
Ah.
authority runs fiber optic lines all over the place. I know we have it
Yeah.
in Carthage and West Carthage, and they hooked up to our plants for free. You guys sell them water, they run the regional water line, maybe they could run a fiber line all the way up the water line. I mean, they have the right of way for infrastructure. Maybe we could work with them to see, I mean, the state has broadband money all the time for, you know, the last mile they call it or whatever.
So we're
like-
underserved by broadband, and that actually would be a good
Mhm.
initiative.
Definitely.
So that's why I included it, because it was.
Yeah,
brought up
no,
a
that's
lot.
good. I was just
Yeah.
asking a question.
It's good that Dave is part of it. I'm just reading Mandy's message.
Oh,
Send a message that her phone's dying.
oh, no.
No. Speaking of,
Is she with Bill? Their background is the
No,
same.
they're
or
different.
what?
They're in two different games.
So the last thing I put was just feedback and taking that feedback and working with it. I think our focus groups were a good start. We had the one and Jeannie, you know, met individually with a lot of businesses, but I think, you know, having those business roundtables, maybe in the spring and the fall, before the season, what do you need for help? What can we do differently? And then after the season, how was your season? What was good? What was bad? What can we address for next year? I just think keeping those lines of communication open and sharing with them what we're doing, because, a lot of their feedback were things that they didn't realize were going on, and like a couple of them said, invest more in the waterfront, like we didn't just invest $7 million into the waterfront, it's like.
Well, and they're so busy, so really we should be
Right.
reaching out to them.
Right.
Because they're like,
Yeah, they're
And
not
not in the
Right.
summer, don't bother them in the summer, but
right,
after the season's over in
Yeah.
the fall, let's have how did the summer go? What were the positive
Sure.
things? What were the bad things?
Yeah.
How much did events help you? What other events can we do to bring people in? So the number one.
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
But the business mixer, they're going to do the chamber's sponsoring, where they have a business mixer. We could do something similar in the beginning of the season, end of season, where we have a business mixer. It's some locale, and then invite them for input. That I'm anxious to see how that chamber business mixer goes. I think I saw it come up on my alert. I think it might be the channel marker that's doing it. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Next Wednesday.
But I thought that was great that they're starting those. I think that's a great step in the right direction.
They've actually had those for a little bit, and I think maybe what we should do is just partner with the chamber and offer to host it rather than host our own. Because
No,
they
that's
already
fine.
have an established, okay, they already have an
Yeah.
established everything. So yeah, I've attended a couple of them. They're pretty good. They do well with them. So
Yeah, we
So
usually
that
go.
might be an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we host one and put our name on everything and gets our name out there
Mhm.
Sure.
so under strategies and actions, I mean, obviously the number one is daycare. I put on there because that's the most relevant up front. We talked about thing recently. Mandy did message us that Stacy is submitting her application within the next week. She has sent me a few questions and I've sent her my comments. She asked if I could come up and sit down with her before she submits, and I told her definitely, just let me know when she's available, and I'll come up and go over it with her if she wants. But so she is submitting, I think it's the 24th maybe, or sometime in there to do. Then I put partner with the chamber on, like we've had a lot of discussions about a central website. Some events are on one website, some events are on another. Maybe partner or work with them on a central website to do advertising, community events, businesses new and existing. Encourage, facilitate coordination between the businesses and the community on programming, cross promotions, drawing people. I think Mary's gonna give you an update. She met with Frontenac Island again.
Yeah, I'll send you guys minutes for the meeting. I'm just waiting for the attendees to approve them, but it was a positive meeting. We've got a couple of things happening at the end of August that'll be joint, possibly one in July as well. So I'm just waiting for them to say it's okay to send.
But things like that.
Yeah.
Cross promotion, business.
And I invited the chamber, so the chamber was there as well as myself and the Arts Council and then the Frontenac Island.
This next one's work with the village to establish the New York Forward Small Business Fund. Jerry made it clear in his email that he intends to allow the LDC to administer that fund. So, work with them, and that would be some of those initiatives and business grants to assist with downtown. Create a master plan for bike route. This has been talked about all 7 years that I've been here, or 8 years that I've been here. And when we met with Clayton, they brought it up again and said they'd like to look at it again. So rebuild those partnerships. I know Dan went to Canada and met with them over there and attended meetings over there and brought back a bunch of information. So network and business development events, regularly organized, some trade shows or expos or networking events, or work with the chamber to bring people in, interact, cross promotion, maybe incubator, put people in the same room and get them talking. Maybe it helps, share ideas. I put this on there. It's going to be working with the village, obviously for New York Forward, but and this was brought up at a lot of meetings as well, is develop a new wayfinding signage strategy. A lot of the comments were there's some lack of signage and identifying areas and where to go. I know that's part of the New York Forward and streetscape down there will be some new wayfinding signs, so maybe be involved in those conversations, and whatever we do downtown, work with the town and the village to expand that to the main roads in and out, and then work regionally, and I did mention Fort Drum in this one actually. So we talked about skill set and retired trainees and keeping them here. There's money through the North Country Regional Economic Development Council. They got $10 million for communities or businesses to create programs to train and retain retired military from Fort Drum. So I think we talked about it the last couple meetings as an opportunity to do that. So those are the actions that I have for business investment and keeping business small and local. I don't know if there's any comments on those or additional actions that you guys can see or can think of. I mean, obviously this is a draft. Give you guys a couple more weeks to go through it and think about it and email me.
So this was where I thought the destination management plan might go. That's where I noted it. I don't know where the right place is, but just you took a note to make sure that went in there, right?
Yep, destination marketing study area 2. Okay. Any other comments on any of those or questions or feedback, good, bad? Don't need to be there.
Oh, this is where I also put in, add something about village infrastructure. That was my other note in this section. I don't know how to do that. That was what I was asking about, but do we need to note it somehow? Maybe it's with the bike path or whatever. Yeah, that's where I made the note was, something like dependent on village infrastructure or make it a separate line.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing, and do mention it up above and under infrastructure improvements, but I don't have a specific action. It does say infrastructure. But the other thing I mentioned up above too, without a specific action, and maybe we can add it, is just local transportation and networking. The county is going to do a regional bus, and I don't know if it's coming to Cape Vincent, but maybe it's something that we.
It's not planned in the first round. I've been talking to those people.
Okay.
But they said to keep
Pushing
on
that.
their list.
So the county's doing a regional bus that's gonna leave out of Watertown and stop in different areas, I think twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon at different areas around the county. I don't know where all the stops are.
So is the village chasing that then? Should we depend on the village to chase that?
Or should we chase it?
It's a good question.
Think about it. You don't have to-
Yeah.
Think about it. You don't have to answer now, but it's one of those things where, where
Well, I
does
mean, you
it,
might have-
where does it
I'm
make
gonna say
sense?
LDC, but
You might have people in Watertown that have a family, wanna come see the fisheries and walk downtown that don't have a car.
Yeah,
The bus picks them up in Watertown at 10 a.m. and drops them off here at 11.
They gotta have lunch.
They can go to the
Mhm.
fisheries, they can walk downtown, they can have lunch and get back on the bus at 3 to go back to Watertown,
Yeah.
It's a way to.
yeah,
If
no,
there's
it's
not a
good.
stop, it's not an option.
Yeah. So let's just make a note on that regional bus, just so we don't lose it, Scott.
Mhm.
Even if, again, this is like V1 and WV2 and V45. I worked on a project once where it was version 45.1.3 final. And then there was 1.4 final. I'm like, what do you final? It's never final.
Federal government keeps issuing final rulings on ARPA funding every 3 months.
Yeah.
Here's the final ruling, I've had 6 other final rulings in
Oh
the
God,
last
I've
3
been there.
months.
It's not a happy memory.
So the next item was protect the environment. So I looked at, working with the town and village, implementing, enforcing strict regulations along the river and the watershed, pollution overdevelopment. Most of that is included in the joint LWRP. Those are all things that are in there, but I think it's just a matter of working with them and making sure we're continuing to do that through zoning and permitting. Enhancing the regional and tourism activities, enhance the river even more than we already are, providing new access without impacting the natural environment. Look at walking trails, picnic areas, viewing platforms, all that are built into the landscape as part of the nature without adding. commercial activities, community engagement, maybe develop some educational programs through the school, enhance the St. Lawrence River and ecosystem, public involvement, work with Save the River or Till on some, classes or some presentations on what's, activities that you're doing and how they're important. Work with local agriculture, incentivize farmers locally, sustainable agriculture, soil and water removal, possibly assist them with grants or incentives that are available. I did put farm to table initiative in here in the description. I probably left it out as an action. I was gonna put it in, but
Did we include anything in our LWRP about for farm to that kind of thing for agriculture and farming incentives or anything, or?
I don't think so. I just think it talked about restrictions close to the river, like things like that.
Okay.
I don't think it discussed incentives
I
for
didn't get
that.
to that section.
This is part of infrastructure improvements, look at green infrastructure, so if
Mhm.
the village is improving their infrastructure along the waterfront, can we do some rain gardens, pervious pavement where it filters out the nutrition instead of running it off into the river,
I know that was some of what they talked about on the streetscape of New York Forward.
Yep.
Didn't they, the one kind of drawing that they did had some of that, it was ridiculously expensive.
It is, but there's grant programs out there.
Yeah, no, but I
Throw
just
money
remember
at it.
that was
Green-
like a shocking thing to me, that it was ridiculous.
Green Initiative Grant Program funds 90% of all the green infrastructure if you're awarded the grant. So although it increases the cost, the state's picking up 90% of the cost if you get that grant.
Yeah, see, that's the
And
one
it
thing
don't always
about,
work.
that's the one thing about New York Forward that I think we need to understand. So let's just use the 2.9 for the streetscape thing. And let's say that there's electric charging stations in that, for example. So if we got National Grid, right, I sent that information about the National Grid thing where, and that money runs out pretty darn quick to do the infrastructure underneath the ground for it, then can we say, well, we know it said 2.9 for this, but we're gonna now do these other things because we use National Grid's money to do that? I mean, so is it, I don't know how much you can wiggle, that, I guess my simple question is, how much can you wiggle in what you said you were gonna do in that project if you find other sources of funding?
Other programs, I would say we can wiggle a lot because I'm familiar with them, because this is the first New York
Yeah.
Forward. I don't know, and they've been so strict on everything else. I don't know how they would
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah,
to
it's
see.
just one of those things where I'm thinking like, wow, National Grid's got this money, it's from New York State. If we want to put electric vehicle charging stations in, why would we not have them do that before they run out of money in 2025?
Right.
As opposed, even if it said that they were gonna do that in New York Forward, it would just seem the right thing to do.
So then the last thing is just cultural and historical preservation. I mean, I think all of the historical and cultural sites along Cape Vincent have been identified. I don't think there's new ones, but I think it's just working with them or their organizations to make sure we're preserving those and promoting them for the long term. So under the actions, green infrastructure, prioritize green space, open land, collaborate with environmental groups, state agencies, Save the River, Till, New York State DEC, Coastal. Create a fund that maybe will allow us to, this is where creating a fund to maybe do some programs goes back to accepting donations. So part of going to 501c3 were for people to leave us money or donate money. Much like people do that now with Northern New York Community Foundation, and they leave money and they tell them give, $2,000 grants out, 3 a year for the next 20 years. Could we create a fund to do some historical projects, where different groups or historical sites can apply for money and give them $2,000 to put in, a new stairway or handicap accessibility. And then public outreach and education, raise awareness of the importance of the river and of the lake to Cape Vincent, and talk to the residents along the river about reducing pollution. The sewer projects you guys are looking to put in would be key to that, and, you know, things like that. So. Can add the farm to table action to this tablet,
Okay.
because I do talk about it up above.
Mhm.
I can also add an infrastructure one to this table, because I talk about that up above in the
Mhm.
description, I just didn't have an action.
Mhm.
That'd be good.
Anything else? Any comments, feedback, things you'd like to see added or taken away?
Anybody else?
Okay.
No.
And then the last one is just engage governance, inclusive with decision-making, make sure that we're involved in town planning and village planning process with you guys as reps, but also make sure the public's involved. If we can host public meetings and inform them and keeping, you know, workshops and forums open. You know, strategically analyze. I think that's what we're doing through this. I've taken feedback from all these meetings and workshops we've done over the last 7 years and incorporated them to this. A lot of it's from public feedback and interaction, and transparency and accountability. Make sure that we've been really good about that, making sure everything's open, posted, that we're following the rules, everything's on our website. I don't think those are any questions. Long-term planning. This is kind of our comp plan, but work with the village and the town to develop their comp plan and redo that. As you said, Pam, that's part of the CFA process. It's supposed to open this week or next. It'll be due the last Friday in July. You can get $100,000, 10% match. So you do $110,000 report for $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's something the town and village want to go after jointly, and we could do that this summer. And that not only not only updates your comp plan, but it takes the state smart growth principles and incorporates in that about not allowing sprawl and, you know, developing with existing, it identifies some of these things. It identify land use, it identify where there's land available for housing and where the infrastructure is already there. So you're not, you know, so you don't have to run a mile worth of pipe out to nowhere to build housing. So that it identify like transportation, roads, bikes, trails, that all those items.
I had hoped the smart growth principles were gonna be in our LWRP, because I saw neighboring communities do that, but if we had them in the comp plan, that would be
Yeah.
helpful, I guess.
And I think the state didn't come out with all this smart growth till like you were 2 or 3 years into it, and then EDR fell off the face of the earth and
Mhm.
didn't incorporate them. So then so like just some actions, work with town and village, develop guidelines consistent with development, community engagement, participation, continuing to plan public meetings, facilitate workshops, surveys, much like we're doing, talking about doing another survey as a follow-up to New York Forward. We talked about maybe having a workshop again and having the public, as you're updating this document, as this is a living document, maybe you go through the SWOT process again and have the public here, or a joint. I mean, we used to have a joint town village meeting every year to talk about projects, grants, goals, what's available, what do you want to see?
Do we do that anymore, or we're not doing it anymore?
We did it, well,
We did it.
that was, we just did April's financial, September is supposed to be that. So that was sort of by the bylaws, the way we divided it up was that we would be, yeah, maybe that's not the right timing anymore, but that was.
But are you talking like a separate meeting for?
We
or the
did,
same?
I used to hold a separate meeting with the town and village, like this time of year to do, what do you want to seek for grants? Here's the projects from the, here's all the ideals for projects. Here's what funding it matches. What do you want to go after this year? So, things like that to keep the input and all the organizations just talking about it and going in the right direction.
I think you guys made it pretty clear, you're not going after anything at this
This
point,
year.
though, right?
Well,
think
there's a
the
couple
smart
of
growth-
things popping up, so.
I think the smart growth would
maybe,
be
yeah.
good. I think
Yeah.
you could probably go after the engineering planning grant. That would probably be good to go after. To
For,
Broadway to look at
right,
a preliminary report for your sewer.
yeah.
So I think those are two grants that we should write for the village over the next,
I think with Ready
2 months.
finally closing out, that there might be some light at the,
and those would be minimum. If you went
Right.
after the smart growth,
yeah,
the max would be $10,000. If you
Yep.
split it with the town, it costs you 5,000.
yeah,
The engineering report actually you go to 50,000 this year, but I mean, that's only also 25%. So if you've got 30,000, it would be 750,000 out of it. So you could do 2 major reports for $12,000 for $137,000 worth of work if you're awarded,
right.
if the town splits the comp plan with it, which makes sense. So, and then just partner with your organizations, your nonprofits, environmental wise and elected officials to make sure we're doing our best environmentally for the river and the lake. Any questions on those or comments?
Great job on this, Scott. Great
Thank you.
job.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it too.
Good. I was worried. I didn't know what you guys expected to see. or
No,
anything.
no, this
I like the
is
way you laid it
exactly,
out.
I mean, that's why all this
Exactly.
time ago, we said, that's the format we wanted.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
it-
that was- So, it's,
Yeah.
that's good.
No, and that's kind of right with that, so.
Good. Any other ideas that popped into people's heads? I want to make sure we hear from anybody that,
Jim's got a question or comment.
go ahead.
Yeah, more comment, a couple of things. And by the way, Scott, I agree that the job done on this is very, very, very good. This is what I used to do in my company, and the people in my company used to do for states and the like. This is really both a good description and a good prescription for what we need to do. So I'm going to second that comment on the quality of this product. 2 notes, just like to bring up in hindsight about 2 potential assets. One might be a little controversial, but something inevitably you might want to look at. And I would call it the Carlton Island factor. It's a real potential asset for historical, cultural, and environmental. Right now, it's privately owned except for the middle part. But one thing that this Carlton Villa controversy has spurred is the realization that the homeowners on the island have had pretty much a tenuous relationship with Cape Vincent. And however it's to blame, everybody being happy where they were, probably being the thing. There's a different mindset that's come up here about how they may have to be sharing this island. The clap situation on the developing the point of the island, it's interesting because we've also found, and I'm an island, I'm on the island too, as well as in town here. So they've formed the group Friends of Carlton Island, but in those discussions, they're probably split over whether something should be built on Carlton Villa and rebuilt or what. Everyone's convinced that the present developer is not a developer. And there's a lot of even preliminary research that has found that that's not the case. But there was a surprising amount of interest in a developer doing something with that point. And I was really surprised at that. I'm for one for that as well, that that could be developed to historical means, whatever, but it would take a real developer that would have some savvy, deep pockets and relationships potentially with the state to try to get support for that. But be that as it may, the island itself on Carlton, has a deep historical value. I mean, of course, it has Haldeman, right? But it also has a rich Indian history with an Indian cemetery there. It also has a blue heron colony there that when you walk through on the pass, you walk into and it looks like the Jurassic World. It turns 20 degrees cooler when you come under the trees. There's all birds that look like reptiles. And there's a lot of other environmental things about that, including the pathways around the island that access under some protected way, like gatekeeper, like tilt or negotiate with the town, things like that. It's a potential asset that might want to be looked at, as a part of the town. And the second thing is the Horns Ferry thing, I think on this bike trail extension, the Seaway thing, one of the nice things about the Horn Ferry is the tie, of course, to Canada. It's a back door to Canada, and for bicyclists, it could be a loop kind of tour along the thing that has people either staying in Cape Vincent or staying in Marysville or staying in Kingston. And half those ferries are free, the one over from Marysville there. There might be a way that could make bicyclists only free on there. Maybe they're already, I'm not sure exactly, right? But it's a nice marketing tool as the back door to Canada and a safe way to go over. I don't think anybody can take a bike over that bridge, you know, and the next one, I suppose, is Ogdensburg. But you might be able to loop in a lot of the tourism attractions that are about Wolf, as well as, of course, Kingston. It gets to that issue of trying to continue this conversation, regional, both countries in on this discussion, where we might be able to find some collaborative assets, some money, but certainly participation. And then the last comment I was just going to have, it was raised in the beginning about the chamber. A lot of times when we've finished reports like this, there are a lot of circles of influence, some of them combative, you know, territory, poaching, all these kinds of issues come up when you want to get a report like this, right? And you have to incorporate everybody into it. I'd say, in my experience, it's been a case of where if this report is not what we call committeeized, where responsibilities out of this are assigned to a committee for checkoff, for both the internal group, would be us, you probably be expected, because we conducted the report, to be responsible for it, if you will, for the oversight. And anyone you'd want in, whether it's a chamber, whether it's other groups, all this, they'd expect you to be in as an overseer to this. Someone mentioned before, we don't want to step on anybody's toes, and that's really true. But the reality is it doesn't work unless more people get on the dance floor together. It's too hard and too complicated to do by ourselves, and the cooperation is absolutely inevitable. And we'll, on that dance floor, will there be occasional toes stepped on? Yep. But you're on the dance floor together with a direction that this thing poses, with the spirit of being behind it by an us, because it would be expected. And when I say committeeized, it does mean that a lot of us would probably have to take on specific things. You know, I know I'm in the marketing area, whatever it is, and that would, a lot of these things would have to fall in there if that's what the group wants and stuff. And people take on other things. And one last thing is that the real asset that I see here is that, you know, there's an old saying, both in politics and business, right? There ain't no romance without the finance. And one of the nice things is we're kind of knowing what we do on the finance side, and we're created as a vehicle to do just that. So we bring that to the party as well. For everybody else, we've got to be on the dance floor. That's my comments, and I can write them up in a page and a half or two and send them to Mary afterwards for the group. You can strike out what you don't want, say it's idiotic on this part, blah, blah, blah. But I'll write it up and submit as well. I'm happy to participate.
And I can forward that. I can forward that to everybody, Jim. So that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That is a good point. I think we should add something to do with the future of the ferry as an investment. That should be a key initiative that's been brought up, that we're concerned about that. And
Yes,
I shouldn't have left that out. That's my fault. But that should be added to small localized business to keep it here.
Well, and were you going to solve World Hunger? Because I didn't see that in there.
Yeah, no, but that
Just
was
saying.
one. And the bike route, Jim, is exactly what you said, what we discussed, what we met with DOT. It was Ogdensburg's Bridge all the way down to the ferry, and over here, just one big loop is exactly what you just said. That's funny. Okay.
They had actually had a pilot going for a bike pedestrian ferry, a new service crossing from Ogdensburg to Prescott. Specifics for bicyclists, and that's how I got involved and went to Brockville. But that was the idea, is if we could get on the maps in Cape Vincent, it's big in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Bicycling is,
Oh, yeah.
cycling
And
is
I think it
huge.
would be bigger here if people felt
It
like
would be,
we were bringing them in to do
and if you
it.
could map them
Yeah.
to the ferry here,
Safely get to the Cape.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
a
we
little-
could safely get to it.
so
Good.
Okay.
Great.
Any other
Scott,
feedback?
great job.
Okay, so then I guess my next question is,
What do we do now?
where are we going with this?
Okay, and that is my 5 questions. So boy, right over to me. Okay, so I'm gonna get tactical because as you guys might all recall, right? We were marching to an April date for this and then finalizing in May. So we were in plenty of time to negotiate a contract with our planner. We all agreed because of Club Street, and it was the right decision, that we were going to postpone it for a month, which means we're now at 6 weeks, boys and girls. 6 weeks till the end of Scott's contract, and we need to figure out what we're going to do. So although I want to continue to work on this, my recommendation is we get a little tactical. So in order to get tactical, and we're talking 6 weeks, there's 2 ways we can handle this. We can schedule a bunch of complete board meetings, and I'm talking a bunch, right, to get through this and say, okay, when we look at all these, do we agree what's high? What are we going to try to accomplish in the next, 12 months, right? Because by the time, what do we need Scott to do? What's the village planning? What's the town planning? Bring it all together so we can say, this is how much we need. Now, how much is that going to cost, right? That's a very tactical way to think about it. Or we could ask a couple of people to have multiple meetings, and that was my, it's an either or, right? Ask a few people to have a couple of meetings, try to come back to the January meeting.
January.
June.
Well, January, okay.
January would be good. I'd feel less stressed about it. Thank you, Carol, for saying, you realize it's 6 weeks. I went, 6 weeks. So we could do it with a small group who would come back to the June meeting and say, this is what we're recommending we do. And obviously there would be some communication via email in between there. If we don't make it a subcommittee, Bill, keep me honest. If we don't make it a subcommittee, we just sort of make it a little working group, then we don't have to publish the meetings and do public meetings and have Casey at all of these. And we could just sort of meet around somebody's kitchen table and try to figure that out. So let me open it up to direction on which way you guys would like to proceed. Thoughts?
I don't care either way, but I have no opening, so
Yeah, so let's
that
do
takes me
small
out
group.
of the,
What'd you say, no openings? Or,
no open evenings.
oh, yeah.
I mean, I got baseball Monday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, meetings just about every other night, so.
Okay, so we
Small
got a
group.
couple. How do folks on the phone feel about a small group?
I agree with that. I think we'll be more efficient, focused, and we can make recommendations. Those recommendations don't need to be accepted or can be edited, but at least we get a tactical movement on this plan and what we feel are going to be the priorities, which in turn helps us with our 6-week deadline with Scott.
Exactly. Okay, good. All right, so I feel like I have consensus around a small group. Anybody have heartburn about that? Okay, all right, that,
Can I pop in 2 questions here?
yes.
First, Scott, are you interested in continuing with us?
Yes.
Okay. Second, do you happen to have your contract here, and what does it really say about when we're supposed to have this new one to you? Because I didn't look that up.
I looked at it. I don't have it here, but I don't think we said,
Like we want to
like the
not,
previous one said you'd give me one 90 days in advance.
Right,
I don't
right.
think this one says that. I
That's
just
what
think
I'm
it says
getting
that
at.
we will negotiate a year extension. I think that's all it says.
Yeah.
I don't think it says a
I think
deadline.
we went pretty simple.
I think it just says we will negotiate a year extension.
because we got ourselves in
during-
trouble last time, and I felt, we were out of contract.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think we both agreed that there would be a year extension and we would just negotiate it when we got to June,
Right.
Right.
And I mean, I think we were going to try to get that done in May, but we punted a month. So now the other thing, just for everybody's awareness, I leave on June 14th and I will not be back till July 1st. So last year, the officers actually did the negotiation. You're going to have to either do that without me because I'm going to Europe and I don't care. So that's the way it is. So basically what I'm hoping is that the small group can say, okay, let's look at all the high priority items. This is what we think we should focus on. And like I said, we can send, because we won't be voting, right? We can be sending emails about, this is, this is kind of what we're thinking might be the right things for us to focus on. What do people think? All I ask is that the rest of the board be responsive to the emails, right? Because if you're not voicing an opinion, don't come in the June meeting, which is the day before I leave, and say, oh, we don't think this is a good idea, right? Like by then we should all sort of be, yeah, we've round robined some ideas and kind of what we're going to focus on tactically is probably a good number of
Would this
things.
small group be looking at the prioritization?
Yeah, so what they
So-
would look at it, what I would think is look at all the highs.
Yeah.
Right, look at the mediums and lows and say, ooh, is there something there that's a medium or low that we think should be a high?
Right.
Right,
Okay.
but I think
So
what
we're
we
not
have to
expecting
do,
Scott to revise this right away.
no, I
I
would
think
say,
she's looking at what are their highs and how many hours a month would my
Right.
time be
If you,
to
yeah.
do,
To work on
right,
those.
to work on
Gotcha.
those things. And, and that's why it's essential that you, Pam, and you, Dan, like next to immediately talk to your boards and say, what are you thinking? Right? Because we got to add those hours in, right? We can't, like, if, let's say you guys, both of you guys decide, we'd like to redo the comprehensive plan. And then we can say to Scott, well, if they want to both do the comprehensive plan, like, what do you do on that? And how long would that take you? And how many hours, right? So we can negotiate in good faith, right? It's like, I don't want Scott to say, well, it's going to be this many hours a month. And then we're like throwing 15 other things in, or he's sitting there going, how the heck am I going to explain my 13 hours? Because they didn't give me anything to do, right? I mean, we've got to get.
Which
a
is
happy
leading
medium.
me to think that Scott also has, he has a big picture and he's like, oh, there's this grant and there's this grant, but that you just threw out there tonight. I mean, I think you could also provide us with,
Oh, yeah.
here's what I think I ought to do for you. for
Like
the
I know
next year.
administrative wise.
Yeah.
The town stuff, like Club Street's gonna go on for the next year and a half. I mean, there's gonna be meetings, there's gonna be coordination with Greg, there's gonna be bidding, there's gonna be quarterly reporting that needs to be filed, there's gonna be reimbursements. Once construction starts, there's gonna be approving pay apps, recommending pay
But
apps.
we're gonna talk just about the year though. Right, so for this, right, we're
For
gonna,
this June to next June.
Right,
I
so-
would think construction will start next spring. So you'll have April, May, June next year with administration with construction.
So is it reasonable to ask you to give us something like that to help whoever is on this?
Yeah,
little-
I can give you what I see administrative wise.
Yeah.
And I can give you a list of what I think
Okay.
the town and village should apply for this year, whether they choose to or not.
Right, and of course, I
That'd be
mean, there's
helpful.
no, yeah, well, all, that would be helpful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can provide you all that.
yeah, and if you send it, Scott, to the whole board,
Yep.
that way Pam and Dan have it,
Yep.
right? But also whoever ends up on the small committee has it, right? And other people, right, who might say, ooh, Scott said we should do this, and I don't think so, right?
Mhm.
Which is good, right? That'll
Yeah.
keep the dialogue going. We're not voting, so we shouldn't be violating any rules by just talking.
Like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
like the village, I think they should apply for the LWRP one more time because this is the last time we can recoup their money that they've already spent on the Eagerly property. Like,
Yeah, we met, or we had a phone conference with Irene Kate Black, I think, was her name, and Peter last Friday to review that. So we'll have to do it soon if we're doing it, so we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay, so, so we're gonna go with a small group. Scott, you're gonna provide us some of that. You guys are gonna talk to your respective boards and say, this is kind of what we're thinking we need Scott for, knowing that it's not casting concrete, but it's,
Sure.
you're directionally what you're thinking. Now I would like to know who would like to be on the small committee, who'd like to spend lots of time between now and June
I'm gonna
13th.
shoot myself, but I said I will be.
You'll be on that committee.
I don't know
All
why
right.
I'm saying that.
Wonderful.
It's
Yes.
ridiculous.
I could do it.
You should shoot
I'm
me.
sorry, is that Bill?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay,
I'd
good.
like, I would too, Mary. I'm gonna be home Saturday.
All right.
Oh, good.
For the season.
I was
Nice.
gonna ask
Yep.
you that.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
got Bill, Pam, and Jean.
Bill, keep us honest. How many people can be on a small group that keeps us not in trouble?
3 would work.
As long as we don't have a majority of the board in numbers, and as long as it is not one of the existing subcommittees or a new subcommittee
not.
that we form,
Okay,
then we are good.
okay.
All right. All right, so that means we could go to 4.
I'll do it.
Dave?
Awesome.
All right. All right, I'm going to, so now I will not be on this because that would put us at 5. So I need someone to be willing to call the meetings, communicate out. I basically need someone to kind of, I'm not going to say chair, herd the cats.
Cat herder.
I'll do it at my house.
Dave's gonna herd
Yeah, I
cats.
can
All
host.
right, Dave,
Right.
excellent.
Chief cat herder.
Chief
Perfect.
cat herder.
Scott, when do you think you can send us that little recommendation for the town, the village, and?
I'll have it to you by Monday.
Okay.
Monday
awesome.
morning.
That's
Yeah,
fabulous.
That's awesome, because we meet Tuesday.
So Jean,
Yep.
Yeah, so it's
Jenny,
Bill,
Bill,
Pam, Jeannie, and you.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you all for
Yes.
volunteering.
Yes.
I think we should.
You guys, does everybody want to meet virtually or in person? I guess that's really the best.
I think if you don't, it just gets
Doesn't
lost.
matter to me.
Doesn't matter to me either.
We probably will get more done in person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can
I-
resort to Zoom if we need
Okay.
it, but yeah.
I'll send out a contact email with everybody so they can respond and say when they're available and.
And,
if
and
it's
and if you
Perfect.
guys need me, you can just pull up his window and yell, Mary, what do you think? Because he lives next door.
That'll work.
Excellent, okay. All right, Carol, spend some money.
Spend some money. Love to.
One more question.
Oh,
on this
sorry,
plan.
go ahead.
I'm sorry?
One more question on this plan.
Yes,
This is the draft. We talked about a final meeting with the village and the town and presenting it to them before we went final. What are my plans with this?
Well,
I got
so-
to this part, where am I going
yeah,
with it?
so this would be my point of view. I'd love to hear other people's. I would say that we leave it in draft. I think what comes out of the subcommittee might change priorities. I'm sorry, not subcommittee, the little group.
working,
The work-
working,
Working group.
working.
cat herd.
That they would do, they might say, we want to move this medium to high, or we want to take these highs, and so it can't be final till they're done with their work. And the board has said, yeah, we agree with that recommendation. As far as doing a joint meeting, I think, see if we could kick it to July.
I don't think you need a meeting.
Present it to them.
I would
Well,
do-
remember, we
strategic
we were
plan.
supposed to do it, and, I do think they have some interest in it.
Do-
Well, we
But
can
do you
ask
think
if
there's
they
some
want one.
interest in it,
Well,
but I
instead
would-
of a joint meeting, do you think we,
Email it.
once we feel like it's a final, still call it a draft and give
Yeah.
it to
And
each
and
board?
these guys take it
and
to their
then-
boards and say,
Well,
here's-
That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
Then I attend
Review
each
and
board
send it
meeting.
back.
Yeah, well,
Mary and I
and-
go to a town meeting together, and Mary and I go to a village meeting together and
Yeah.
say, you guys have had this for 2 weeks. Do you
Yeah.
have any questions on it? Do you see any
And
direction?
if
Sounds
we,
good.
and we could not only just do that, but we could also say, and tactically, this is what we're gonna do for the next 12 months. So it's
Right.
sort of,
Right.
it's
And
a
it's gonna
nice,
reassure them that we have a
I
plan
know,
of action and stuff to
Yeah.
fund us.
I know there's a member or two that are waiting for it,
Okay,
oh,
that asked why it was late already.
oh, right, yeah, but I mean, when that question was asked of me, I was very clear
I
that
know.
we
it's not
as a
late, we
board.
extended the date.
I know, but
Yeah.
to them it was late and they wanted to know
Yeah,
why.
so
it was
if you
extended.
guys could both note to your boards,
Yeah.
right, that this is our plan of record, that
Yeah.
we're going
Well, I
to
did miss.
come
the
up with
last
our
meeting.
tactical
Yeah, you
plan,
missed-
and
I
then,
know, I know.
and then in the July timeframe, we'll give them what I'll call version 2
In July.
in July. because we still need to talk about, are we gonna do a survey
Right.
of people that are, now that the seasonals are back? And that would be part of the tactical plan, right? Because it would be great if we had that input as well.
Then the
And I
other,
think we have to remember, like Scott said, it's a living document.
Right,
the other
Yeah, we
question,
don't have to have,
I was just gonna say, I put on there some appendix to attach. Is there anything that you also think should be on there? Like, I wanted to put the strengths and the weaknesses that this group in the town and the village did last year. I wanted to put the New York Forward survey on there and a copy of ours that we were gonna do moving forward.
Mhm.
I do have economic demographic sheet that I did some research on and developed, and I'm gonna include that. Is there anything that's missing that should be on there, or do you not think those should be on there? You know, what-
Those would
think
be handy.
I think
would
those are good ones, yeah.
because some of that was used to develop this plan.
Right, yep, no, I think that'd be good, yeah, and you could just set those under separate cover.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna make, you said you're gonna make updates to that, so you could do it all at once, right?
Yes.
With the stuff we talked about, okay, good.
Okay.
All right, Carol, let's pay some bills.
Okay, I don't know if anybody ever looks at the financial reports.
I
reports
do.
that I post.
I
Okay,
do.
okay, all right, so very simple. We did spend $8,000 on accounting fees. But those were already approved the month before, as our biggest thing last month. So this month's checks are Scott's consulting for May, 28,1250, May rent 150. Public authority compliance from March 10th to April 6th, that was getting our final filings in for 331, all of that into Paris, and that's 536.25. The ad, April 13th, 806. Casey, 103.76 for April. The renewal of our short domain, Cape LDC, $20, and that came out of the checking account, and our website renewal, $276. So total bills requested to be paid, $4704.51. And you will have this, Casey, and it's already posted as well.
I make a motion to pay the bills.
You'll second that motion.
And
All in
then,
favor?
Aye.
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 Casey, what I intend to do is hand off a couple files to you, because I
Okay.
assume you're into the office and
Yes.
every so often.
Correct.
And so I've got this cover sheet with all the backup of all the bills that go with it. So this is just, I'm gonna start doing it this way, so it's
Okay.
all together.
Sounds good.
You
Um,
know, it may be good. The villages and the towns do it, is there's a cover sheet that lists all the bills you paid and a spot for each board member to sign. So that shows that
Two
they
board
reviewed
members.
them. You do too, you do all ours, I don't know what you do, but a
We do
spot
too.
for people to sign it, like.
and I just took that off this month because nobody ever signed it because I had it, I had
Maybe
motion
you
and
should have
seconded, but it is
have
in the
somebody
minutes.
sign it.
Yeah.
You know,
It is in the minutes, wouldn't that suffice, do you think?
right. And the vote goes, the motions and the vote.
Yeah, I just know in the past, the village has been written up for it when we've been reviewed, that there wasn't a cover sheet that were signed off by members, even though it's in the
Because
minutes.
when our audit didn't bring that up.
I'm
Yes,
just,
you're making. a
Are you
suggestion.
saying your
I'm
village?
just,
Carthage?
yeah,
or-
yeah, when we were audited like 10 years ago,
Hmm.
it was just a finding that they weren't being signed off on, even though it's in the minutes that they're reviewed, you know, we identify who reviewed them and just suggest them.
I mean, I can put it back on. I just, literally, we've not signed them yet. I had all that on here this month. I said, well, that's stupid. We're not using that. It looks bad. because we're not
Did you
using
want
it."
us to sign that blank sheet or that piece of paper?
No, because there's nothing on it that
Ah,
says verbiage of.
Yeah.
I think for this month, we should just,
leave
Say
it,
that-
and, yep,
You
With the
don't-
minutes.
yeah, because I think the minutes support that. This
Yep.
was a suggestion.
yep. Okay,
Now then, the website audit, this is kind of big, because when I was working with, MRB and getting the stuff done for March 31st, and I'm looking at the website and I'm looking at stuff and I realized like, we're missing a lot. So they did they offered to do an audit and we're just not getting the stuff up there.
Mhm.
And the goal is, I think that Joe will show Casey how to
Yeah.
post the stuff and it'll be all nice and tiny again. And Joe did throw a bunch of things on that weren't there. And he did ask me to send him some stuff, which I have to do.
yeah, he made a list of things that the board would have to create So I think, Carol, what would be helpful is if you look at that and then basically give assignments of what Joe listed that the board would have to create. I mean, in some cases, it's gonna be a piece of paper that says, we don't own any property.
Mhm.
You know, when I looked at the list. And the one thing is that I guess the website is owned by me. I was the only one who had a credit card or whatever. And I sign in via my Gmail account. But Joe said that I could give authorization to other people, and I said, or he said he or I could do it, and I said, no, I need to be able to do it, and you need to give me directions, right, that I can put on our Google Drive that says, this is how you do it if Mary decides to stay in Germany and never comes back. But so I can give Casey access, but I think we should give another board member access. And Carol, are you willing to
Sure.
be that other person? So as soon as he gives me those directions, I'll give that. But if you can look at the list he gave, and if, you know, I don't want you to have to do it all, just, we need a gearbox so that not everybody's trying to write the same stuff.
Yeah. I don't think there's that much
I don't
now, but like, you know, we weren't posting the final minutes, just all these basics we haven't been doing. And he went through and logged in and found a bunch of stuff and found this and that and posted
Yeah,
it.
He was
So
very helpful.
Joe was very helpful between last meeting and this meeting, even despite he's having.
Well, and he
family
said
issues, so.
and he did say that some of the things that Tracy asked for was not on the New York State compliance list.
Right.
And he
So
was
if they're
working from
not,
that.
we don't want to. But maybe, I mean, if it's nothing, if it's
If
basic.
it's not a big deal, I think we do it, yeah.
So, yeah, okay, so I'll find time to review the list and kind of say.
Yeah,
well,
just
we need
hand
this
it out,
one.
just hand it out to people, you know, whatever you need us to do, but that way we've got one person being a gearbox.
Okay, and then I think in the meantime, we're gonna work toward getting access to the website and him kind of.
I had
teaching
asked
you
him
how
for
to
that,
do it.
yep.
And it's not rocket science, I
Yeah.
mean, you log in and you post things.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
said he was gonna reach out to me fairly soon and
Yeah.
we could
Terrific.
find a time
Yeah,
to
so
get
if
together.
he reaches out to you and he's giving you access, write down how we did it.
Okay.
So yeah, because when I was doing the year-end stuff in Paris, I mean, everything referred to is on your website, and I'm like, oh my God. You know, it's just, I had so much angst, it was,
It was our first full year, really.
yeah, and I thought, oh, well, this will be easy, I could just do this, and then I got in there, I'm like, I can't do this.
Well, not
And I
to
was just
mention,
voting
then their
tears and Mary
system
said,
screwed
"Oh,
up and you
Tracy."
couldn't post it, so.
And she was a lifesaver, so I gotta tell you, Tracy's amazing,
Yeah. she was
which I'm
really
sure you
helpful.
already knew, Deanne,
Yeah, they're great to work with.
yeah, so.
They've been, I love having that little retainer for them, just pay as we go, you know.
Okay, so that's that.
Okay, all right, committee reports, Dave, anything to report?
I've got two finance policies that I'm gonna give to the finance committee members. So
Okay,
that you can review them for,
okay,
and then I need to schedule a actual finance committee meeting, so
okay,
we'll go through these two policies and then bring them to the board next time.
okay,
That's it.
great.
And that was actually one of the website things, we should have our committee meetings scheduled, listed on the website in advance and all that too, so.
Yeah,
And, you know, set them at the beginning of the year, so they're set, things like
Yeah.
that, things we have, just aren't doing.
yeah.
It's just tidy up, but let's do it
Yeah.
right, so we're doing this.
All right, great, Dave, thank you.
So we're gonna try to sneak this in
Bill,
before she
anything
goes.
from governance?
Well, since we're talking about meetings and everything like that, so since our bylaws state that we have to have at least 2 meetings a year for governance, but we've been kind of doing a lot of things. We know we have to do the one in November, which was the consensus in order to go ahead and review the stuff. So by our January meeting, we can kind of renew those, but the other one's kind of a throwaway, but we are required to have it. So unless I can find something to go ahead and suggest a change to our bylaws for a singular, we'll go with the 2. And if we're going to do 2, then my recommendation is I find a time in June with the governance committee, and we won't have a lot to meet about, but it is a requirement. We have to announce it. It has to be available for the public. We have to video conference it, etc. So I'm kind of eyeballing a date in June and November unless I find an exception. And and then the board has to vote. We change the bylaws, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's much longer than just scheduling a 5-minute meeting in June.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so that means both finance and governance will be having a meeting in June.
Dave
And-
suggested May
Let's
30th
go
for
over the
us.
30th of May. You want to get it in before you leave,
Yeah,
in case you don't come back.
in case I don't come back. All right, I'll
Did you
check that.
create these or did you have these?
Okay, so, all right, so just both of you guys need to know that we've gotta advertise the meeting. I think do we have to advertise it in the paper? Subcommittees?
I don't think so. I think your website and post it on the billboard at the village and the town office.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't say how, it just says it has to be advertised.
I think your website's fine and posted it on the town.
But I don't know that we can have it at somebody's house. I think you're gonna have to.
Can't we use the office? Can't we just use the office? That's what it's
Could
there
use the
for.
office. Yes, you could.
Can we do
You
it
have to have it,
virtually?
you can have it at your house if you want to allow the public to come to your house.
Right, but
Right.
yeah.
Right,
yeah.
but why wouldn't we use the office that we pay rent for
Yep.
these meetings?
Great suggestion.
There's only 3
So
of us.
you gotta let
There's no chairs
Casey
there.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a table and
There's a
chairs.
table and
yeah.
chairs.
Still there.
Yeah.
So like what Tracy wrote here was board meeting notice, board agendas, board packets. See, Geneva LDC is an example as how you can knock out all 3 of these in one document moving forward. And she gave us the website and she said, page 1 is meeting notice, page 2 is agenda, and then the full packet, like what you're
Nice.
discussing,
Cool.
is all included. And I know I've been sitting in on HOA meetings and stuff, and those HOA meetings, the agenda says, here it is, we recommend approval, here it is, we recommend approval. But then the board is gonna look at it and vote on it, but they had all the information, that's why the meetings are only an hour instead of, they're not
Nice.
working meetings, because you
Right.
work on the side and you look at this policy
Right.
and then we're ready when we come to say, yeah, this is good, we're voting on it.
Dave, I
Nice.
can do the 30th,
So can
so
I.
just let me know. Okay, so we'll do them at our office. And because they're a
I
subcommittee
emailed
meeting,
this.
we
Everybody's
do
got
need
this
to
in, yeah.
have minutes.
That one, right, yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll be okay probably for one of us to take minutes and not make Casey go to all these extra things.
we should be able to do that.
Yeah, so we'll do that, but then we'll send them to you and you could print them up and put them on the website. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, good.
And it's every day.
All right. All right, Club Street, I think we hammered that one earlier, so we're good. Dan, anything from the town?
Settled on our bond rate.
Oh, okay.
So we're waiting for that paperwork to sign, setting up closing dates. Just trying to keep things moving.
Cool. Village,
I don't think anything that I didn't already talk about, which was the CFA legally property. We're looking at submitting that potentially. We have to make a decision as a board. And comp plan, looking into that, but.
all right.
Busy.
Marketing, Jim, I'll talk, just like I said, I'll send out an email about the meeting with Frontenac Islands. So as soon as the attendees agree with that I captured it correctly, I'll send my notes out. So we'll see that. That's really all we've got going on marketing. Obviously, the ad was $800, but obviously successful. And the flyers, so referendum passed. So well done to the team.
Yep.
Yes, Jim.
Nope, that was it.
Okay, I thought you were gonna maybe say something. And Mandy is gone. But so you know, because I know, the property that the childcare person is going to buy was approved for subdivision at the planning meeting last night. And the planning board also approved her plans. So she's got pretty much everything in place. Other than the closing, she's closed on the property between now and May 22nd.
Nice.
So that's
Wow.
And then
childcare.
she can apply for the grants and
She's-
whatever.
She's
Right.
got her grant done. It's due May 22nd. She's got most of it done. She's got her
Great.
financing in place. That's part of the
Wow.
grant application. Although the grant is, I think it's 100% grant up to $1 million, but she has-
Million, 1.5 million.
she has to have the money up front. because it's reimbursable. So she's gotta have short-term financing to build the project and then submit for reimbursement.
100% reimbursable. I mean, well, how great. Thank
Yeah.
God somebody jumped on this.
I
I know
know.
it.
It's
All
great.
man's hard work and.
And wait till,
I
I mean,
know.
if you guys could see her plans, they're
Might be
just
95%
incredible.
I wanted to look at it.
They're
last night.
incredible. And she's calling it Little Lighthouse Learning.
Oh.
Isn't that the
Aw.
cutest name? I love it.
It might be
Love it.
95%, but it's
But
pretty
it's
much.
substantial.
Yeah.
Great.
So, yeah, so,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that's moving along well. So we have these last two things about these New York State Economic Development Council things coming up, the conference and the annual meeting. Anybody want to go? I mean, nobody has jumped on it in the short term, but I just want to offer it up one more time. Obviously, 522 is right around the corner. That's Cooperstown. I have looked at the website a couple of times. I still have not seen an agenda with speakers. I see like, we're gonna have some baseball guy talking and we're gonna go to the baseball museum, but I'm like, show me the meat.
Mhm.
And there isn't any. And then, but then there's this class at the end of June, which honestly, if I wasn't on my vacation, I would go to this. Does anybody want to go to this? Because we can pass a motion to pay for it. And this is fundamental economic development. I mean, to have someone walk in from our board that has this background. It's in Albany. It's June 10th through the 13th.
Which is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Anybody?
Yeah, I apologize. I haven't responded back. I'm still looking at my calendar. I can't commit, but I'm still looking at it. I don't know when we have to go ahead and send.
Yeah, it would be great if you could go. So it's June 10th. So we're not gonna have a meeting before that.
Let's do a pre-approval of
Yeah.
anyone,
Yes.
if anyone decides they want to go to.
Yeah.
like by the name of Bill. You know, so how do you guys feel about that? You
And
know,
you don't go on vacation till the 14th, Mary, so.
yeah. I'm gonna come to our meeting on the 13th, the night before I leave, and I have to move all the furniture in my downstairs to some other place so they can do the hardwood floors while I'm gone. So it's a busy time. Anyway, so do we want to do a vote on pre-approving? Bill, is Bill the only one that might be interested? Okay, yep, nobody else, crickets. Okay, so do we want to do a motion for pre-approving Bill if he decides his calendar allows that we will pay for the conference fee and his travel? We have a travel policy and he's head of governance, so he knows what that is.
Yes,
All right, so we got a yes. That means Dan, is that a motion?
that's a motion.
All right,
I'll
Dan,
second the motion.
and Dave would second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Other than Bill, you can't talk, stay on mute.
Send Bill, send Bill.
Yeah, send Bill, send
Casey
Bill.
Mutum.
All right, and then the last thing is just New York Forward, and honestly, we just don't know anything yet.
No,
So, I
Jerry's
mean-
reached out twice. so
Yeah.
far.
I mean, so-
Crickets back from.
Yeah, and that unless there is anything else anyone would like to bring for the group. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Yay.
All right, Dan's got it. Can I have a second? All right, and Pam's a second. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, 'cause,